Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Hamlee. Morgan Freeman, Tavis Smiley, Harold Ford Jr., John Conyers, Russell Simmons, R. Kelly, all public figures, all accomplished, and all accused of sexual misconduct. And now add to the list Virginia's Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax and former Governor of the Commonwealth, L. Douglas Wilder. So here's the question. In this time of the Me Too movement, why do we continue to hear allegations from women against powerful men? Is power stronger than the law? What's really going on? Up next on Another View, a frank conversation about men, power, and the law. But first, today is the final day of our spring fundraiser, and it's time now for our Another View listeners to support what you love. Hopefully it is Another View. So let's go on over to Pledge Central. Linda Dyer and Jason Kipros are there. And how you guys doing this afternoon?
Hey, Barbara, we're doing great.
That's
my
fantastic.
gosh.
So now it is our turn, the Another View folks, to call in to 1-800-940-7170 or to go to WHRV.org. Make your pledge of support. If Another View is what you love, then support what you love by giving us a call, 1-800-940-7170. And you know, Linda and Jason, I heard you guys just made your $2,000 challenge. We also have a $2,000 challenge within this hour. So Another View listeners, if you want your donation matched dollar for dollar, now is the time to call up to $2,000. Give us a call right now. What's going on, guys?
Well, absolutely, Barbara. And when I saw that we had a $2,000 pledge during Another View, I'm thinking, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because
no sweat.
I mean, listen, the loyalty and the love in this community for Another View.
Yeah.
I mean, I know y'all are out there. So what I would do, I would go ahead and call in or go online right now, because you don't want to miss even 1 minute of some of the best programming you will ever hear on this station.
Thank you.
Well, you know, I mean that. And so that way you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, right in the middle of something I'm trying to pay attention to, I'm going to call in. So go ahead and call in now, 1-800-940-7170. If you love and support Another View, I need to hear from you now.
And I'll tell you what, the listeners, everybody out there, you guys have been on fire today.
Yes.
I mean, we have met goals. We have crushed goals. The phones just keep ringing. Listen, it's
a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's a cacophony of giving in the room right now. And
I like that.
And I tell you, and we got and you mentioned that $2,000 challenge. I mean, this is buy one get one free, guys and gals. Call in right now. You can double your money. You make that $10 pledge, a $20, a $50, a $100, whatever it is, small or large. We appreciate it. We value it. And if you're keeping track, the dogs are at 99. The cats are at 106. The bearded dragon stands alone. The pigs are 2, chickens 20, 1 parrot, and 2 chinchillas.
Well, Jason, because I've got a thank you here to read, and they've got 9 cats. So when you're calling in and you're popping them out 9 and 10 at a time, the numbers go up. So Diane Joseph and Roger Branscombe, honoring their 9 rescues, and God bless you. Prissy, Mio, Darth Vader, Sparky, Ziggy, Tina, Lucy, Chili, and Lily.
My goodness.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's something there. There's a lot of
I
cats.
Buy you some
How
cat
come we don't
food?
have any rabbits on the board? Where are the rabbits?
1-800-940-7170. That's the number to call if you want to join in on this fun that we are having this afternoon. It is the last day of our spring membership drive. Another View listeners, it's our turn. Everybody else has stepped up to the plate. I have no doubt that all of our Another View listeners will come through for us in the hour. So within this hour, between now and 1 o'clock, if you would like your money doubled, then now is the time to call. We have a $2,000 challenge. So your dollars will be doubled up to $2,000. Give us a call, 1-800-940-7170.
That's right. And the public radio, and you're listening to this station right now because you love it, and also because public radio's mission and what you're getting from the show that you're about to listen to right now is that it's to create a more informed public. And that's exactly what Another View does. That's what WHRV does. And so we want you to call in and support what you love.
Absolutely. And we know how loyal you are, because I'm one of those people. I will try and schedule appointments around Another View on Friday because I don't want to miss it. No, I'm serious. And I feel like, knowledge is power, guys. Knowledge is power. And we do help to create a more informed public. And that's how we all grow. That's how we get better. And that's what we're about here. So please, 1-800-940-7170 is the number to call. Do it now. You can sit back, relax, enjoy Barbara's show, and feel good about what you've done for the day.
Yeah, and we've got a powerful show coming up today, too, talking about power, men, and the law. So I agree with Linda. Make your call now, 1-800-940-7170. That way you will be done, and you can kick back and listen to the show.
Thank you so much, everybody. Keep calling. The phones are on fire. Let's keep them that way, and let's make that $2,000 goal.
All right. Thank you.
Discussing today's topics from an African American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Thank you so much for your support of Another View. Today is your chance to show WHRO Public Media Management how much you love Another View with your pledge of support. Now, we have a $2,000 challenge during this hour, which means if you call 1-800-940-7170 between now and 1 o'clock, your contribution will be matched dollar for dollar up to $2,000. So call in right now. Before we get into this great discussion about men, power, and the law, that number again is 1-800-940-7170. Make your pledge of support, and let me say thank you in advance. And also, before we introduce our guest for today, I want to tell you that Tidewater Presbytery presents Race and the Church. Where do they meet? It's going to be held at New Covenant Presbyterian Church, which is 1552 Kempsville Road in Virginia Beach. They say join us for a conversation on racial reconciliation. It is tomorrow, Saturday, April the 6th, from 8:30 until 2:30 in the afternoon. Now, this is a long email, so listen up, because they would like you to register at squareup.com/store/Tidewater-Presbytery. I'll say it one more time, squareup.com/store/Tidewater-Presbytery. That's where you go to sign up for Race and the Church at New Covenant Presbyterian Church, 1552 Kempsville Road in Virginia Beach. Looks like it will be an incredible conversation featuring Justin Jones Fasu and Otis Pickett. So thank you very much for that. So the list continues to grow, from actors to politicians to music icons to the President of the United States. Powerful men accused of sexual misconduct, and some, think Bill Cosby, actually convicted of sexual assault and serving time. Is power that intoxicating, that strong, that it supersedes the fear of prison? And what does this mean for male-female interactions going forward? We are honored to have as our special guest today, both joining me by phone, clinical psychologist Dr. Sherry Blake, better known as Dr. Sherry, therapist to the stars, and she is also a relationship and mental health expert for Essence.com. Dr. Sherry, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity, and I am looking forward to this topic.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to speaking with you about this, too. And we welcome back to Another View political strategist, Jasper. I knew I was going to do that because I've been calling you Jason in my head all morning. Jasper Hendricks III. How you doing, Jasper?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on this today, and I look forward to the conversation. And greetings to all my fellow Norfolk State Spartans all the way. I'm greeting you from Nashville, Tennessee today.
Oh, fantastic. So you travel all over the country doing your political strategy work, and so I'm really curious to hear some of the conversations that are going on about this very topic. But so, I want to start with you, Dr. Sherry, because I would think if you look around your landscape and you see a certain behavior that is causing people a lot of angst. They're losing their jobs. They're getting fired. They're going to jail because of a type of behavior. Why wouldn't these men be running for the hills and, doing a complete clean sweep of their past, trying to get it right? Instead, we keep hearing more and more and more the latest with our lieutenant governor and with the former governor, of men being accused of sexual misconduct. What's going on?
Well, first of all, you would think so. You would think they would be running for their lives, but the reality is we have a culture that certain behaviors have been overlooked, have been ignored, so they don't feel they have anything to run from. And a lot of these behaviors, it's been 20 years, and I said, who's going to think some would come up from 20 years ago? And they've cleaned their lives up and they've changed, but we have a society that says, or at least in the past, that was okay. It wasn't until recently that women said, no, that is not okay.
And there's a lot of criticism that comes out when it is a long period of time, between the alleged event and when the women come forward. So, I mean, is that problematic?
It is problematic because people's memories shift, some things fade. And, it's hard sometimes to prove. And people, like years ago, they blame the victim. And sometimes you have to question, was this consensual? What was going on? And again, our society has been conditioned to say, well, that was boys been boys. He didn't do anything or she didn't do anything. And so we have to look at that, and we have to look at where are we now, because we have been there's been a major shift in terms of what is wrong, what is not wrong. We know certain behaviors are inappropriate, but we used to not talk about it. So now we're at a point that we are talking, we are speaking up as females, but the thing is, for men, they have to understand that, the behaviors are not acceptable, and if I did something in the past, I do need to go back and really deal with that or be upfront with it. And if I didn't do anything, I need to make sure I can stand in my truth. Another thing that's interesting, too, to me, is the more money, the more power, the more education you have, sometimes you don't expect to have to deal with past behaviors.
Yeah, because you think that you can just get beyond. As a matter of fact, Tarana Burke said, and I'm going to quote her here. She says, when people accused of harassment return to power without making amends or never lose it, at least financially, it limits the post-Weinstein movement's potential to change how power is exercised in American society. And very few have shown that they have taken responsibility for their actions or offered private apologies to those they've harmed. She says, where's the self-reflection and accountability? So if nothing really happens to you, or unless other than being a little inconvenienced, then that might be the response, that you'll just take your chances.
Absolutely, because again, that security in terms of money and education or power, it insulates you. It insulates you from consequences that other people will have to deal with. So when they do get taken out or lose a job, what happens is they're penalized. But nobody has said, you know what, let's really look at taking account or accountability for what you've done. So if it's only a penalty, it's like spanking a child. When parents used to spank, they would spank a kid, and the kid would say, God, how long do I have to get, how long is it going to be before this is over? And then they go back and do the same thing. So because there's no understanding of the role they had in doing the misbehavior in the first place.
So, Jasper, let me ask you from a strategist position as well as from a male position. I mean, what is the talk among men in terms of being accused of sexual misconduct and trying to stand up for your rights if you really believe that you in fact didn't do anything wrong?
Yeah, so I've had conversations with some of the people that are close to the lieutenant governor. I've also have conversations and looking at, and specifically here in Tennessee. Here in Tennessee, there's a state rep that was accused of sexual assault of young people that was under his care as a coach when he was a teacher, and the Republican speaker appointed him as the subcommittee chair for education in the state legislature. And so you have those instances where where men within the political sphere right now are just sort of hanging, we're just hanging there, right? I'm trying to figure out what's going to be next. Will you have someone who's falsely accused, or will you have, people who will actually come out and actually, tell about the stories, things that have happened to them, and will they be believed? And there's men like myself who are, I'm all in favor. If the lieutenant governor broke the law and he indeed raped, as they have said, prosecute him. Let's go to court. I'll be right there, sitting there saying, we need to have this done. We need to get it taken care of once and for all. It's not a place for a public hearing. We've heard about the instances. So if he broke the law, let's have it prosecuted. And then but then on the other hand, you have guys who are, 3 people, and he has, he's been recorded saying that, he admitted, this Republican in Tennessee, that he admitted that he, did these things to a couple of these young, when these women were young, and they were playing on their teams and he was coaching, but he still gets a committee appointment. And not just any committee appointment, but he goes in to become the chair.
So your point being that there's even inequity in terms of who gets to get a complete pass and who has to go through a process in order to prove that they are innocent.
Yeah.
Or not guilty. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. So this gentleman in Tennessee has actually been appointed. Was there any uproar from the community? Did people protest? What's going on with that?
The women so he actually was removed just a couple of days ago as the chair of this committee, but the legislature is about to be over for the year. They're about to wrap up for the year. And so he was able to serve, as the subcommittee chair that oversaw the leaving of dollars from public school education to the voucher program that the governor wants to do. And so, the 3 women that have accused him, one was actually recognized in the House chamber just yesterday, I believe, where a Democrat stood up and just had her recognized, and it was an awkward pause. But those women were not giving up, and saying that this happened. He did this to us when we were children,
and he admitted it?
Never been prosecuted.
And he admitted
it? Yes,
wow.
He has.
Dr. Sherry, so what kind of mentality is going on there? That go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was
going to say, just if someone has admitted that they've committed a sexual assault against children, and then you still get rewarded by being placed on a committee where you still have access to making laws about that group of people. I don't understand that mentality as to how the governor or whomever puts someone in charge like that.
Well, unfortunately, and that's what I was going to say earlier, is that bad behavior or inappropriate behavior have become the norm, and it gets awarded in some arenas. So you get reinforced for your bad behavior. So if it's an old boy system, where there's a old boy system where everybody sort of, looks the other way and smacks you on the back, then you get elevated. Let's look at, in terms of the country, the behavior that gets accepted, and you get reinforced so people say, hey, this will blow over. And we already know that most Americans have a very short attention span. So they're hoping that this is going to blow over and move right along and business as usual. So the mentality is one of, you weigh it out, you get reinforced, and people will forget because, power rules.
So I want to play a couple of clips because we know that Vanessa Tyson and Meredith Watson did interviews this week with Gayle King, along with Lieutenant Governor Fairfax coming out with a statement. So I want to take a look at that. Let's start with Vanessa Tyson. She attended the 2004 Democratic Convention where she met Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax. She accompanied him to his hotel room to get some papers. He had asked her to come with him to pick up some papers, and then she picks up the story from there.
You're there in the hotel standing by the door, and then what happens?
He crosses the room and goes through his luggage, finds some paperwork, which is what I assumed we were there for, and good. And then he crosses back around the bed and comes over to me, and I'm still by the door, and he kisses me.
And you think?
Well, I was surprised. I mean, for a variety of reasons, I was surprised. But it wasn't unwelcome per se.
You're saying it wasn't unwelcome, and you're kissing him, and you're okay with the kissing?
Yeah, I'm okay with kissing.
Yeah.
You know, and he kind of gently takes my hands and guides me towards the bed. And we're still kissing, right? And it's completely consensual. He guides me to the bed, and then, you know, he sits down on the bed. And what happens from there, we start kissing lying down, but on the very edge of the bed.
Okay, so I'm following. And then what happens?
We're kissing lying down, and we're kissing, like, so our heads are level with each other. And then it was like my neck didn't work.
What do you mean?
It was like I couldn't feel my neck. I couldn't hold my head up. He's using his hand on the back of my neck. And I still didn't know what was going wrong. I thought there was something wrong with my neck. And he's pushing down, and I couldn't hold my neck up. And I didn't know what was going on.
Dr. Sherry, that's very real for women, that where a situation may start one way and quickly change into something else.
Right. And men have a tendency, some men, not all, they don't know when is it not okay. So you've gotten this far. So now at what point are you uncomfortable? What point are you saying, you know, this is crossing the line? And so the boundaries are so blurred sometimes because once they're, you know, in go mode and they got the green light to take you from point A to point B and continue, when is it not okay? And so I really feel for men as well as the female because as well as females, because sometimes if that is not clear, you know, they don't know, especially when you're in a comfortable situation. And so we have to look at those boundaries. We have to look at what does it mean to be consensual? How at what point does that be like no? And so how do we deal with that? Because if you don't know as a male and you think everything is okay, and then 20 years later or 10 years later, or whatever the case may be, somebody said, no, that wasn't okay. And how do you know?
So do you think that, and Jasper, I want you to chime in on this also. So when you listen to Vanessa Tyson, she sounds, and if you've watched the interview, she completely goes back there mentally. I mean, you can see it in her face. And she truly believes what she is saying is what happened. But there are people who criticize because they say that was 2004. She should have come forward when Lieutenant Governor Fairfax was running for lieutenant governor. Why now? And so there's always this questioning about from the victim's perspective. And Jasper, I'm curious from your take as a strategist, is that a legitimate concern because it didn't happen when he was running the first time, but as soon as he could have become governor, it becomes an issue?
No, and I think that, you know, people are raising those concerns, and my particular concerns will be a little deeper than that.
Okay.
Was the fact that there was a bounty out there for $25,000 for any information to have him resign, you know, and also the fact that you know, she met with the DA of Boston back in January or early February. What happened to that meeting? What happened with that? You know,
yeah, because there was question that she still had time to file.
She still has time, right? She still has time. It's still within the statute of limitations. In the same instance with North Carolina, with the other young lady in North Carolina. North Carolina doesn't even have statutes of limitations when it comes to, you know, these types of charges. So, you know, and I think that people they're asking the questions, but the real question is like, so why? And I think that what they really want to know is, why are you willing to talk about it on the media and in front of legislators that actually can't do anything? Because these incidents happened out of state and they happened before he was an elected official. So the only thing that you could really do is to talk about it, which is what you're doing now. But you can press charges. So, and like I said in the beginning, if he did this, let's go ahead, let's press charges and let's have him prosecuted, because I think that's one way to get people to actually think about their behaviors in the future. You know, and instead of and when you're doing it on television and when you're talking about it on TV, like it's really humiliating. And my fear is that he has young children. You know, and what if this, and his children can read, and they go to school with kids that can read. And what if this happens to be untrue, and now all of this stuff is out here, and his children have to grow up with this and go to school. And we know what it's like, you know, in schools as it is.
And he has denied, but let me make very clear. As a matter of fact, let's listen to some sound from Justin Fairfax about what he thinks or his denial of the accusations.
I do not believe that national television appearances or legislative hearings are the right vehicles to get at the truth. I voluntarily submitted to 2 separate polygraph examinations with respect to the allegations made by Dr. Tyson and the allegations made by Ms. Watson. I passed both tests on the first try. I knew that the allegations made against me were false from the moment I first heard them. That is why I denied them.
Okay, he's pretty adamant about where he's going with that. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation. We're talking about men, power, and the law, and whether or not there is still a feeling and an attitude that if the more powerful you are, the more you can get away with sexual assault or sexual misconduct. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. And by the way, those are our phone numbers to the talk show. So don't worry, we're not going to ask you to pledge or using those numbers. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. So before we have to go to a break, let's take a listen to what happened with Meredith Watson, who was the other woman who says that she and Justin Fairfax were great friends, and then something went terribly wrong one evening at Duke University.
He invited me to come over to celebrate. He was nearing the end of his senior year and just wanted to hang out. And I did not think anything of it because it was normal. It was something we'd done tons and tons and tons of times. I was not worried at all. I completely trusted him. We were hanging out and everything was normal. And at one point he left the room, and when he came back in the room, he sort of stood blocking the door. It was sort of imposing the way he walked in the room, and he shut the door, and it was sort of like simultaneous. I heard the door click and the light went off.
Click like locking the door. Mm-hmm. And you think what?
Oh no, what's about to happen?
Mm-hmm. You became concerned?
Mm-hmm. He did things that you shouldn't do to someone without their permission. And I tried several times to get up and leave and was pushed back down.
And what happened?
He forcibly sexually assaulted and raped me.
Now, again, Justin Fairfax denies both of these allegations. But again, Dr. Sherry, do women need to be more forceful when they say no? Or what do we need to do so that the message is very clear?
It's unfortunately, a lot of the responsibility for cases tend to fall on women. We have to be very intentional and very clear. But as a female, we also have to be aware of, who we're with, and yes, they had been friends according to her and the whole bit. Now, I am like Jasper said a few minutes ago, if he is guilty, as a female, you want him punished. But, and sometimes it takes people a long time to come out. It takes them a while to even be able to talk about it. And the reality is, as women, it's just not our responsibility to stop inappropriate behavior. Males have to understand their role and making sure they're not imposing themselves. So I think we have to, do certain things, in terms of protecting, not
and
being
it sounds
alone.
like education on both sides. We're going to continue this conversation in just a moment, but if you're just joining us, we're talking about men, power, and the law with clinical psychologist Dr. Sherry Blake and political strategist Jasper Hendricks III. We'll continue our conversation in just a moment, but first, let's go on over to Pledge Central to see how we're doing with our $2,000 match. And I believe we now have Gina Gamboni and Scott Duncan with us. Is that right?
Introduce me.
Okay.
I'm Gina Gamboni.
Hello, Gina.
She's on the radio.
Gina, hi, you're on the radio. Hi, Scott Duncan. Hi, Gina. They can't hear me, apparently.
No, not.
Scott, are you there? Gina, it's Barbara. Hi.
Hello.
You guys on the radio. How are you, Scott and Gina? Okay, I tell you what, we're going to come back and we'll continue our show and then we'll get back to them in just a little bit. So we've got our phone lines lit up. Let's go with Kathy in Virginia Beach. Hi, Kathy, you're on the air.
Hey, Barbara. This kind of situation is distressing. Absolutely. I can feel the total sorrow in the lady's voice and her story. But I also think that overall, women and men, it's not a victim situation off the bat. We're meant to be together. We are equals. We are people in this world. And we have to make sure that we, in the first place, put ourselves in a place that we want to be. Unless somebody's kidnapped us, unless somebody's forcibly, which it sounds like from her story, I think that women cannot keep opting to be the victim in this. We have to understand that we are co-partners in procreation. We are co-partners in intimacy, and
Okay, Kathy, let me let Dr. Sherry address that. I see where you're going, and I want to talk to Dr. Sherry about that. Women also, and I'm not sure if Dr. Sherry, if this is generational, but there are women, particularly older women, who have the mindset that you are to don't put yourself in a position, and therefore it won't happen to you. And is that fair to do to people?
It's not fair and it's not true. Sometimes things happen to us, and, even when we take the best of safeguards, and I do agree with Kathy, the caller, it's a responsibility on both sides. But we have to understand in most situations, it's about power. It's the whole idea that one person has that upper hand. And many times, especially in the past, women felt very helpless, and they thought no one would believe them. And also, they get re-victimized over and over again when they come out and say something. So you do the best you can to be safe, but also understand that if you're with someone that you know somebody, there's a real high rate of sexual assault in what we call date rape. These are acquaintances. These are people. These are not strangers. It's not like we can yell stranger danger and run, because you don't see them as dangerous. So we have to be quite aware that, we have to take responsibility on both sides, and both sides need educating.
Okay. Let's go to Susan in Newport News. Hi, Susan. You're on the air.
Hi there. Thank you for taking my call. Yes, I was just listening to what she was saying, and that's exactly my point. If I'm going to go in a business situation and agree to go to anybody's room in a hotel, I think I'm taking on my own risk at that point. I think politicians, anybody, should be responsible for how they act. And if they're doing something inappropriate, someone needs to speak to them and talk to them and give them a warning. And if not, then go to the appropriate authorities. This movement is good, but it also, like you said, in the past, as women, we accepted things. We used it to our advantage sometimes. And but now it's become a little ridiculous. Something really bad needs to happen before all this stuff comes out, and they should speak up now more than ever.
Thank you so much, Susan. I appreciate your call. So I guess I'm just a little surprised because I hear younger women saying today, and Jasper, you can chime in on this, but I hear younger women saying it really shouldn't matter where I show up or how I show up or how I'm dressed or whatever, that this is my body and therefore I get to decide when it's appropriate and when it's not. Is there too much political correctness in all of this?
And that's what I was actually about to say. So I work for elected officials. I work for women and men in very close proximity with them, like to the point where I know their social security numbers and credit card numbers. And I've worked for men that have had relationships outside of their marriage, and I've gotten sort of almost caught up in that, and to a point where a young lady showed up to a fundraiser for this particular elected official, and I could not allow her in the room because the wife was there. And I had to have a conversation. It was like, this is what you chose to do. You chose to get in a relationship with a married man that you know. If you Google this person, the first thing that pops up is pictures with his, the wife and the children. And so you are not going to come in here and disrupt this event, because you're feeling some type of way because he didn't return your phone call today. But then I had to have a conversation with the wife. I had a conversation with them and said that because of me and who I am, and I'm here to protect, to work with you and to make sure that.
So you did have a conversation with him also.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
Good.
My mama
good.
my mama told me, right.
Listen, hang on a second. We were going to try one more time to go back to Pledge Central and see if we can talk to Scott and Gina this time. Are you guys there?
Yes, we're here, Barbara.
We are here.
Where are you?
I'm in the studio, and I'm trying to figure out how we're doing on our $2,000 match.
Very, very close to the $2,000 challenge. We're almost there. If we could get a few more calls in right now, we will match. We will get there. We have just a little over 20 minutes to get there. 1-800-940-7170.
It's chaos in Pledge Central, Barbara, as you can hear.
Like it.
But that's good chaos. We're getting a lot of phone calls. You can hear it in the background. Our volunteers are ready to keep taking those phone calls. And I'm talking to Barbara and Gina, both of you as radio professionals. I'm just a volunteer and a board member, but I know what goes on here, just like our listeners do, even if they don't come into the station. This place is amazing. It's incredible what you guys do every day. The spirit that goes on behind this amazing programming that we all know and hear, and including incredible local shows like yours, Barbara. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
The only way that goes, though, everybody knows it's a membership model. It's not commercials.
That's right.
It's the support of our members. Whatever you can afford makes a big difference. Pick up that phone, 800-940-7170.
I sure would like to make that $2,000 match. Another View listeners, we always come through and we always exceed the amount of money that we are asked to raise within the hour. So I'm counting on you today. It's rainy outside. That means you're sitting in here listening
That's right.
to the show. And we're going to go back to the phones and hear most of your opinions about men, power, and the law. And I'm real curious to hear from you. But while we're in this quick break, pick up the phone right now and dial 1-800-940-7170.
Barbara, I want to tell you that when I was first learning about this station here in Norfolk, about WHRV, your show is one of the first. It was like the second thing I listened to from the website.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
thank you.
That made me say, I could go to Norfolk. I was so impressed with what you do and the fact that the show is here.
Thank you.
So thank you for doing it. It is a special show. Not all stations have an awesome program from from Another View or Another View. Excuse me, that gives us the perspective from another view.
Yeah.
It's a special thing, and every person in this community should support it. You can go online to WHRV.org, but it is more fun to call. It is much more fun to call. And someday we won't even be using telephones anymore. We'll only have the web. I say let's use the phone as long as we can to talk to real people.
That's right.
I like that.
1-800-940-7170. That's the number to call. Make your pledge of support. Let's make this match of $2,000 for Another View, for Barbara Hamley's incredible work on this show.
You're a legend, Barbara, and everybody listening knows what we're talking about. Everybody listens every Friday to this show. You know that. If you haven't taken that step to become a member, to support it, now's the time to do that. You've probably thought about doing it before. Today's the day. You get in here to help us finish off this drive and to honor your favorite pet. So that's
honor your pet.
Oh,
it's
yes.
Pet Pledge Friday.
That's right. So let's give a couple of those, shall we?
Yes.
So how about Leon Crane and Stephanie Eppinger of Smithfield in honor of their beloved Jazzy, the Golden Doodle, and in memory of their cats, Sebastian and Doodle. So they're both cat and dog people.
Yes.
You don't get that all the time. And also, how about John Rovenolt of Norfolk, 2 cats in honor of Virginia, a calico, and in memory of Maryland, another calico.
Oh, that's beautiful. And we have a special, somebody who called in with a special dog, Wendy Wilkinson from Virginia Beach, called in support of WHRV saying Kuma, the dog Kuma, encourages all his fellow therapy dogs to support WHRV. Yep. I bet your therapy dog could totally pick up the phone and call 800-940-7170. You want a treat? Call the number.
Call that number. So, Barbara, you knew you had human supporters. Little did you know you had so many animal supporters.
Exactly.
right behind you. So let's keep it going. Please make that call, 800-940-7170.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so very much, and thank you to all of our listeners who have already called in with your pledge of support. Now, let's get back to our conversation. We're talking with Dr. Sherry Blake, who is a clinical psychologist and political strategist, Jasper Hendricks III. So, Jasper, we were talking about the fact that you actually did address the alleged perpetrator of this affair, as well as the young lady. I was glad to hear that.
Yeah. So I actually have a conversation with a lot of elected officials. Because when you're working with them, you're working with their families. You have to deal with all the schedules. You have to deal with everything about them. And I have a conversation with if they're married. I have a conversation with the candidate and the spouse. And we have a heart to heart, and I want to make sure that there are no landmines that I'm going to run across throughout the course of this campaign.
So, Jasper, let me ask you this: then are you all having conversations now? I'm talking about man to man about this probably is not a good idea to continue to either be involved in affairs or whatever in terms of the male-female relationship. Are there conversations now where people are saying, let me change my mind, let me do something a little different?
Well, I think so there are people who are calling some of us now, asking for help because we've had these conversations. Like, this isn't anything new. And so there are some of us who are, kind of shut out, because, we did not agree with some of the things that we saw. Like, we knew certain people got jobs because of certain things, or they got contracts because of certain things. Or when you look at an FEC, when you look at the campaign finance reports and you see a girlfriend, on the campaign finance report, you're like, and so we've had these conversations, over the course of the years. And, but those people like myself would, often get, ostracized as that, being a potential problem because we didn't necessarily agree with, some of those aspects, So, but now I can't keep people off my phone. And they want to try to figure out how they can, correct some of these wrongs or get ahead of and, sort of address, how people may perceive things, going forward.
So potential Democratic candidate Joe Biden had an epiphany this week, and let's take a listen to what he had to say.
In my career, I've always tried to make a human connection. That's my responsibility, I think. I shake hands, I hug people, I grab men and women by the shoulders and say, you can do this. And whether they're women, men, young, old, it's the way I've always been. It's the way I've tried to show I care about them and I'm listening. And over the years, knowing what I've been through, the things that I've faced, I've found that scores, if not hundreds of people have come up to me and reached out for solace and comfort, something, anything that may help them get through the tragedy they're going through, and so it's just who I am, And I've never thought of politics as cold and antiseptic. I've always thought it about connecting with people. As I said, shaking hands, hands on the shoulder, a hug, encouragement. And now it's all about taking selfies together. Social norms have begun to change. They've shifted. And the boundaries of protecting personal space have been reset. And I get it. I hear what they're saying. I understand it. And I'll be much more mindful. That's my responsibility, and I'll meet it.
So, Dr. Sherry, are we too sensitive? Is this as people now? Or
I don't know. I think we are quite aware, but the problem is, what is comfortable for one person in terms of personal space is not comfortable for another one. So now what is going to happen? Okay, I can get 2 steps from you, but I need to stay 4 from you. How do we judge that? And I think that we have become so aware. And everybody has a camera, everybody is recording, and everybody is interpreting the story, and that's the problem. So I've met Joe Biden. He is friendly, and yes, he hugs and shakes hands. Yeah. Some people don't think anything else about it, but if you've had a history of trauma, if you've had a history of sexual abuse, if you have had a history of some problems, that may be very uncomfortable. So we have to be aware of our own comfort level as females or other males, and the other person needs to be aware of the reading the social cues, the nonverbal social cues, because they're there.
And it's different. Women.
Yes. So, Jasper, was that you?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, women. I've noticed that women politicians are a little bit handle this a little bit different, and it actually reminded me of a story. Just past September, during Congressional Black Caucus Week, I actually took some friends to go meet Congresswoman. Everybody wants to meet Congresswoman Maxine Waters. So a friend of mine is her chief of staff, and so I arranged for them to, go to her event and to meet her. And one of my male friends actually put his arm around her to take a selfie, and she immediately corrected him and said that men are not supposed to touch women like that. You're not my husband. He's sitting over there. And so, and we look, but she did, she wasn't mean about it, but she immediately said, this is not, we're not going to take a picture like this.
Wow. Well, I mean, and I guess that's the best way for us to start to handle this. I want to bring another point through also, and this in terms of Governor Doug Wilder. Sidney Black has accused him of kissing her when she did not invite the kiss, and also offering her an apartment and that he would travel with her and pay for law school and so forth. But one thing that she quoted in the Washington Post, she said, "I have been hesitant to report this incident because I was afraid of the power this individual possessed over my career and education." She wrote that in an email to the university. She said that she hadn't felt psychologically ready to file the police report because I know that I am dealing with a very powerful individual. So, Dr. Sherry, how often does that stop women from also bringing to the forefront when they've been wronged?
Quite often, the reality is women have been blamed. We have become, we're the victim. And if you look at history, you look at the justice system, women are ripped apart about, what they look like, how they dress, how many men they've been with, why were you there? So many things have put the victim under a microscope without ever looking at the person that created the harm. So what happens is, a lot of women are afraid. A lot of women know the impact of power. If we look at the entertainment industry and what has happened, they know that their livelihood could depend on it. Her career could depend on this. So they're not going to say much, and they will shut down unless they say, you know what, this is okay. I'm willing to put all this on the line right now. And most of all, in many women's minds, it's like, who's going to believe me? We have this man of power, and I have someone that's trying to move up, and a lot of times, unfortunately, all women are not innocent. All men are not innocent. And the reality is sometimes people do use it to move up, to get closer to the power. And that's the reality.
I'm glad you brought that point up, because a lot of times when you hear these conversations, it is almost as if the women are just so powerless and that they never participate in terms of being able to manipulate the system, just as men are accused of manipulating the system. And I think it goes both ways.
It does go both ways, and it's very unfortunate that all women that manipulate really put a really bad mark on those that are innocent, those that have been traumatized or victimized in some way. Mm-hmm. Because, people are people, and they all have agendas. They all have reasons. There's a reason for things to happen. It just doesn't happen out of the blue.
Yeah, let's. I want to play a clip from Lucy Flores. She's the one who accused Joe Biden, I believe, of smelling her hair.
For me, in this situation, it was unwanted. It was shocking because of the power difference. Context is also important here. I'm in no way suggesting, and I think this is again a conversation that's necessary, because it's not about just hugging someone or, like, oh gosh, now I can't touch anybody, or, oh, she touched him on his shoulder. Did she violate him? That's silly. This is about context and understanding that there's a very, very powerful man, that he is the second most powerful man in the United States at the time, and I was a candidate, and I was not expecting him to touch me in that kind of an intimate way and to kiss me, and regardless of what his motivation was, there was no personal relationship there. There was nothing that any person would consider normal in that interaction, and so yes, it made me feel like I couldn't do anything to stop it.
So again, the power dynamics make such a difference.
It does make a difference. And again, how we define the context, it makes a difference. She mentioned that, it was such an intimate, that may not be the case for someone else. Somebody, touched them, maybe you have to look at the person's history. Look at Joe Biden. He has hugged, kissed, touched, whatever, in terms of the show. And also, I think that is a function of the generation he grew up in, where it was okay to do that.
Right.
And it was not, for many women, no big deal. But for some, it's very uncomfortable.
It's so interesting too, because you've got, as you said, it really is an individual feeling or an individual perspective. Because, like you said, some women, Joe Biden hugging them or someone putting their arm around them, whatever, would not bother them at all. And I think that's probably part of why the discussion always takes such a turn whenever a politician or any other type of famous person is accused of doing something and they find out what the something is. And usually if it's something in terms of being in one space, there's a lot of derision or there's a lot of laughter or teasing about it, where people just don't take that seriously.
Mm-hmm. I think Maxine did, Maxine Waters, she congresswoman, she did an excellent job of saying no. And you do not have to be the angry woman, the angry black woman, or whatever the case may be, and say, don't touch me. But, you have to put those boundaries in place up front.
Mm-hmm.
And you say,
Jasper, when a woman puts those boundaries up front, are men learning now to really react to that and pay attention? Or do you think they're still going in the direction of, I'm still the powerful one?
Oh, no. Yeah, I see the change. I mean, and I think it's also, I see it in churches as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as I'm, when I visit churches, with, the elected officials, or if I'm going on my own, I now start seeing where even in churches, when it's time to greet your neighbor, you ask for permission. Mm-hmm. You ask to, if they want a hug or is a handshake appropriate, and so I'm starting to see a shift there where people are going more towards that, and you have elected officials and men, and candidates walking up, and they're, and some of the ones that I've been working with, they're, asking, is it okay, or looking, they're waiting for permission to enter into that space.
And many times it's a non-verbal cue they're looking for.
Yeah.
Say it again. Right. Say that again, because you were a little low on the phone. No, that's
many
okay.
Times, I was just going to say, many times it's the non-verbal cue that they are looking for.
Such as, give me an example. Give me an example.
If a politician walks up and wants to, is hesitant, and the person opens their arms like, they reach, hey, that's it's okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, it may not be okay to touch their behind, but it's okay to give them the little church,
the little pat on the back, the little
right, and not too tight,
So we only have a few minutes left. If there was a piece of advice that both of you could give to men and women in terms of these interpersonal relationships, especially when there's a power dynamic involved, what would you say? And I'll start with you, Jasper. I'm going to start with you this time.
So my piece of advice is that I agree with the callers and Dr. Sherry, is that it's the responsibility on both parts, on both people, more so, for men to learn that, the appropriate way to greet and to talk with people. But we also need to learn that, we have to respect each other.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for us to live, we have to learn that everyone is deserves dignity and respect in their personal space.
Okay.
And so that's what I would leave people.
Thank you. That is political strategist Jasper Hendricks III. Thank you so much for joining us today on Another View. And Dr. Sherry, you get the last minute.
How about that? I would like to say for both men and women, we must be educated. We have to understand society and the norms have shifted, and what's okay, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, may not be okay today. And respect, I think you have to be in tune and respect the other person. And you don't have to be cold, you don't have to be nasty, but you have to be clear. You have to be honest. You have to understand where you're coming from and what your motive is. Understand that and take responsibility for self. When things happen, it's okay to speak up. It's okay to get psychological help to resolve issues. And you do not have to be a victim. Understand that you have the power to shift the dynamics.
Fantastic.
Power, if it's a person with power or not.
Yes, and that whole piece about getting help, professional help also is very, very important.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's Dr. Sherry Blake. She is a clinical psychologist and therapist to the stars. Thank you so very much for joining us here on Another View. We really appreciate it. And I want to take some time now to tell our audience, guess what? You are absolutely incredible. So our total for the hour on Another View in support of Another View, $10,635. Woo! What fantastic news. Thank you so very, very much for supporting this show. Thank you on behalf of Lisa and Todd and I. We are so grateful. We try to bring you the very best in terms of programming that we can and to give you a different perspective. And you just turned around and showed us that you believe in us. Thank you very much. $10,635. That is awesome. And guess what? You still have time. If you want to call in within this hour, the number is 1-800-940-7170. Make your pledge of support. You are the reason that we're able to stay on the air, and we so appreciate you. We need to hear from you. Become a member. Join the Another View family. Join the WHRV family. And thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you again. It is not too late to call in. And next week on Another View, it's the Another View Roundtable with food for thought on what's happening in our world today. Our theme music was composed and performed by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Todd Washburn is our audio engineer, and Jimmy Cooper answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. You still got about a minute left to make your membership in support of Another View. Call 1-800-940-7170. And thank you so very, very much for listening to Another View.